Hello, and welcome back to our third session of today's Training Industry Leader Talk Sales Enablement Strategies for Long-Term Success, sponsored by Adobe, CGS Immersive, Force Management, InfoPro, and Integrity Solutions. So I'm Liz Spate, the Events Marketing Specialist here at Training Industry, and I'm thrilled to have you with us here today. Before we get started, I would like to quickly go over a few housekeeping items to help you interact with our speaker and get the most out of today's program. So throughout today's event, please feel free to use that chat window to interact with our speaker with any comments. As for questions, please submit those questions to the Q&A section on your toolbar below. This session in particular is jammed packed, so we will try to answer all your questions, but if not, the Adobe team will follow up after. And at the end of your time here with us, you will notice a short evaluation survey has popped open another tab in your browser, and would appreciate your thoughts on today's event. And all of our sessions are being recorded and archived on trainingindustry.com, and you will receive a follow-up email from us that will include the link to the on-demand session for you to share with your team. If this is your first Training Industry event, we would love to welcome you. We exist to make connections among learning and development professionals. We offer tons of resources to support your role in L&D, like live events like today's Leader Talk, as well as through articles on our website, our magazine, conferences, research reports, membership, and podcast. We would also love to hear about what you learned from today's session on social media, so please follow us on your favorite platform so we can continue the conversation. And without further ado, it's my pleasure to introduce you to our speaker. Dr. Partridge is an e-learning evangelist for Adobe Systems. He has served on the doctoral faculty of University of Georgia and Indiana University of Pennsylvania and taught education in the arts and university for more than 20 years. He has spoken to groups around the world about education and e-learning and has extensive background in higher education and simulations and has written several articles and books about e-learning, immersive learning, games, 3D animation, and simulations. And with that, Alan, take it away.
Thank you so much, Liz. I'm so excited about today's session. I've been looking forward to it for quite a while. It is an interesting session in that my plan is actually to hijack it. My secret plan, or not so secret plan, is to hijack what would be a normal, everyday, ordinary kind of session on enablement, and instead tell you about the beautiful rebellion. I want to tell you about a rebellion involving sales itself and why sales enablement should chase joy over logic, why we should take a slightly different path. And that's probably not the kind of language that you're accustomed to hearing when you think about sales enablement. So I think that it's worth our taking some time and exploring this a little bit further. And as Liz warned you, I'm going to go fast today. So I'm going to go ahead and share my screen with you. I've lost my keyboard, Liz. I know. It's terrible.
No worries. We will find
Where did it go? Where's my button, Liz?
the share button. It should be at the bottom because nothing.
I know. I know. I'm looking at it. I'm not seeing it. What did I do? Oh, it's under more, maybe?
Maybe.
It is. It's under more. It hid.
That's so silly. The most important button. And
I know. It's kind of crazy, but it's fitting for today's tribute. All right. So why do I want to talk to you about the beautiful rebellion and why sales enablement should embody and favor joy over logic? Well, I was listening to folks talk the other day and sitting in a meeting, and I heard them talking about a number, about a statistic. And they talked about this number, 2.3 million. And I was thinking about it and thinking, that really sounds like a lie. The number presented was presenting this kind of case. That $2.3 million is actually how much unused marketing content costs enterprises annually. That we're producing all of this additional marketing material and we're not actually leveraging it or making use of it for success in any of these capacities. But here's the real question. What if that unused content isn't the problem at all? What if we've been building enablement programs like sales reps or broken machines instead of recognizing them as the brilliantly, beautifully human people that they actually are? Today, I want to challenge everything that you think you know about sales enablement, not because I'm trying to be contrarian, but because the data, the real uncomfortable, rebellious data, tells a different story than the one we've been telling ourselves. When we look at this, there's a sort of paradox that we're all ignoring. Here's what conventional wisdom tells us. It tells us that organizations with sales enablement see 49% win rates versus 43% for those without. It tells us that 84% of reps hit quotas with robust enablement strategies. It tells us that companies experience 8% quarterly revenue increase. Okay, that all sounds great, right? But here's what it doesn't necessarily tell you. It doesn't tell you the uncomfortable truth. The uncomfortable truth is that we're building. I've not had so much trouble with PowerPoint in quite a while. Okay, there we go. It doesn't tell us the uncomfortable truth. The truth is that only 32% of salespeople believe that their enablement aligns with their organizational goals. We're out here building cathedrals, and our congregants are playing in parking lots. Think about this. We've created an enterprise industry around fixing sales performance, yet sales reps still spend about 28% of their week actually selling. The other 72%, well, you'd think that I was going to tell you that's inefficiency, but it's not inefficiency. It's being a human in a complex world. What do I mean by that? I mean that the truth is that sales representatives have an unusual mission in life. They have a mission which requires them to make immediate human relationships, to bond with the people that they're actually engaging with as customers. And that means for them, hashtag just trying to fit it all in, hashtag only 24 hours in a day, hashtag real life, right? It means for them, they live a life. They're people. They're not your salespeople. They're not my salespeople. They are people, whole people with whole lives and families and real worlds. And it's that aspect of sales personnel that is so critically important to the real spark that's really what's at the root of their effectiveness in terms of sales. And that's driving forward relationships. And so, one of the reasons I wanted to focus on this today is because so many of the sales personnel that I have met throughout my career have been some of the most wonderful, warm, engaging human people that I've ever encountered. And it begs me to kind of push forward on that and say, wow, maybe there is something that we are losing by pushing so hard to meet these specific goals and strategies and things like that, where we're not really focusing on the most critical aspect, which is their human nature. When we think about this, I can think of a couple of examples. There is a good example wherein a large e-commerce giant trained effectively 2.5 million truck drivers, not by treating them like data points. They embedded learning directly into their existing driver management app because they understood that learning happens when life happens, not where training departments think it should happen. A similar thing happened for a sales enablement case study coming out of an automotive giant in Japan. For them, they replaced their internal learning management system with Adobe's learning management system and trained 35,000 dealers sales personnel across multiple countries. In fact, they created their entire dealer academy using Adobe tools, Learning Manager as the LMS, and then they used Adobe Experience Manager sites for a custom branded front end. After they went live, their dealer academy, they were able to reduce administrative overhead by 20% across the US and Canada. And that's just one example. Now, beyond that, all of these folks are continually engaging in experiences that are about real life. I bet you guys didn't know that Liz, for example, who hosts these sessions, is an absolute Disney fanatic. And so, to be fair, am I. So I thought we would just sort of dive in on the Disney fanatic journey and ask this question this way, just to have a little fun and get to know each other personally a little better today. So even in the Magic Kingdom of sales, every castle has its dragon. Which one of those dragons relates most for you? Is it Scar? Your training programs look great on paper, but nobody actually uses them. Or more like Ursula, we've got tentacles everywhere, too many tools, too many platforms and systems. Is it like Jafar? Your enablement feels powerful, too powerful to lead. Is it like Maleficent? We curse our sales teams with boring one size fits all content. Is it like Captain Hook? We're always chasing the next shiny enablement. Which one of these best describes your enablement journey?
And I'll give everybody about 5 more seconds. I know there's a lot of options. Here are the results.
Yeah, excellent. I think the one thing, the universal truth that comes out of that is just an understanding and recognition that for none of us is our sales enablement journey kind of flawless. For none of us is it sort of uh, revolutionary or changing everything. But one thing that we can definitely do that will be revolutionary is to help honor and recognize the real strength that comes in the relationships of our personnel to sales personnel and sales personnel to our personnel, kind of moving back and forth. Now, I want to talk then about these three pillars of rebellious personalization. Uh, Instead of sales rep training, what if we were to think first time closer in enterprise software, relationship builder in competitive markets, technical seller in consultative environments, emphasizing the significance and the importance of the human relationships that these folks are extraordinarily gifted at, and reiterating to them that we understand that the value that they're adding to the organization is in their humanity. The difference here, obviously, is that one acknowledges complexity and the other assumes sameness. The second pillar is skill adjacent learning. One of the world's largest tech giants didn't just train 150,000 store experts on products, they created reward pathways that connected product knowledge to personal achievement. The insight that they gained from that is people don't just want to be better at their jobs, they want to be better versions of themselves. They want to have a more comprehensive life journey as they travel along. And that just makes sense. And it's good for everybody. Then finally, that third pillar is contextual competence. Your reps aren't really getting dumber questions. You know, you'll often see this sort of notion come up that why are these questions like this? What's going on? They're not getting dumber questions. They're getting smarter customers. Your enablement should celebrate this complexity, not try to script it away with excessive objection handling. Instead, trying to encourage your reps to really get to know the people that they're having a conversation with. I can't tell you how many times that the gates opened because I saw a salesperson take an objection and spin it into a relationship core because they found a way to relate to that individual customer. And I know that you've seen your reps do the same thing. It's an incredible skill, and it's something that we absolutely need to be recognizing them for and identifying as a pillar, as a central aspect of what makes their work effective. So, practical takeaway: create learning paths that branch based on curiosity, not just competency. When someone completes objection handling 101, offer them three wildly different next steps: the psychology of price resistance, building trust in virtual relationships, when to walk away, the art of disqualification. Offer them options that recognize and celebrate their individuality, that give them choices and ways that they can begin to explore things that are of interest to them, but also things that emphasize the importance of the difference that they actually bring to the role. That's an important difference for you and for your organization. Next up, mobile first access. Think about learning in the wild. I think that we can think of this sort of as the death of training events. This slide lets us sort of see that 71% of consumers prefer to research themselves rather than talk to humans. And that's kind of an alarming statistic. They really don't want to stop and talk to somebody. And so they really don't want to stop and talk to your sales reps. But if your customers are mobile first, why isn't your enablement more mobile first? Here's where most organizations get this wrong. They think mobile first means make everything smaller, little tiny packages. That's not mobility. That's miniaturization. We can take an entirely different approach to mobile first in today's world. Uh, think about this in terms of ambient learning. Um, an interesting article from recently highlighted an automotive manufacturer, and they worked to make their dealer staff enablement engaging by experimenting with short form content and other interactive elements like digital flip cards, things that format well and that work effectively on those mobile devices. So giving you an opportunity to reach these folks, the sales folks, in their realm where their life is, right? And because of that, since this kind of format is incredibly accessible, then that experience is incredibly available. And that article, by the way, we'll share that with you with the deck, was celebrating Mazda, which is one of Adobe's customers, and they were able to bring so much of their efforts into the mobile space by recognizing how important it was for dealers in those lots to actually do the work that they do around training while they're between customers out there inside the lot. Another way to think of this is to think of this in terms of micro moments of mastery. Instead of 2-hour modules where you're training everything under the sun, think of it as 30-second confidence boosters before a difficult call, or 2-minute competitive intelligence updates. Think of it as 5-minute storytelling frameworks where you can access them while you're walking between meetings. Think of it as integration, not intrusion. Your sales enablement should feel less like homework and more like having a really smart colleague who's always available. This is just going to continue to become more and more relevant as AI and other factors begin to play a role and allow us to have more of those kinds of interrogative experiences. Employees are reluctant to take hour-long trainings. They would either like the long training sessions to be broken down into chapters, or they'd like to consume those training materials from a website, almost like YouTube. Videos, whenever that kind of thing is a possibility, is absolutely a preference. Practical takeaway number 2: audit your current mobile experience. If it takes more than 3 taps to get to the most commonly needed information, you're designing for computers, not for humans. Go through and look at every piece of mobile that you have and ask yourself, is this actually appealing to me? Is this appealing to the younger folks who are on our teams? Is this appealing to the more senior folks who are on our teams? One of the realities that we face is that we are no longer in a situation where gamification, social, mobile are things that are really only for Generation Z or for the latest generation. The generation that is currently rapidly moving toward retirement was the first generation to eagerly play video games like World of Warcraft. So there is certainly a savvy for all of these technologies, including mobile, which penetrates across all of the different age groups, penetrates across all of the different sectors. And so it's absolutely the case that we can look at these now and see that there are ample opportunities to shape things into mobile and that it's obligatory. People get annoyed when they don't have opportunities to work in that mobile context. So, keeping with our Disney theme in honor of Liz today, if your sales enablement were a Disney character, which would it be? Would it be Elsa? Powerful, but sometimes feels frozen and hard to approach. More like Baymax, helpful, caring, and always there when people need support. More like Genie, incredibly capable, but often grants wishes nobody actually asked for. Belle, always learning, curious, and sees potential in everyone. Mickey Mouse, classic, reliable, makes everyone feel welcome. Tinkerbell's small but mighty and occasionally a little temperamental. Woody, loyal leader who brings the whole toy box together. Or Dory, enthusiastic and well meaning, but sometimes forgets what people actually need. Which one would yours be? I'll be anxious to see your answers.
I'll give everybody about 5 more seconds, but it is funny that there is one character that has absolutely no votes, which intrigues me.
Oh, wow.
So with that, here are the results.
Liz, how much do you love these polls? Dory,
That one I loved the most.
enthusiastic and well-meaning, but sometimes forgets what people actually need. Wow, I think that definitely resonates. Tinkerbell was popular, small but mighty, and occasionally a little temperamental. I'm not surprised to hear that so many learning programs are constantly getting cut back, cut back, cut back. So feeling small but mighty makes a lot of sense. And Belle gets not a single vote. Always learning, curious, and sees potential in everyone. Oh, wow, poor Belle. What do you think, Liz?
So that I was surprised. I was surprised, but I think there was too many good options.
There
That
were good options. That's absolutely fair. There were certainly good options. All right, we'll move on from the poll and back to the main event. 45% of pros are overwhelmed by their technology stack. Holy cow. So, of professionals, 45% look at their technology stack and go, oh, that's enough, right? Now, I just said, and I meant it, that our entire uh, assembly of people across all ages is digitally savvy. They're used to the most extreme computer games and all of that kind of thing. And yet, almost half of sales pros are just overwhelmed when they look at the tech stack. It makes a lot of sense. It's a delicious irony. We solve complexity with complexity. The average sales rep uses 10 or more tools. And that's not necessarily enablement so much as it's a kind of digital hoarding, right? So beginning to understand how to focus and direct, beginning to understand how to prioritize and actually facilitate the needs, the day-to-day needs of our people, that's what becomes critical. And beginning to think of the ways that we support them as inclusive of their well-being, right? Just as we care about the fact that their relationships are center, we care about the fact that mentally, physically, in every way, they're able to remain sound. And that means overwhelming is not a good sign, right? We want to instead figure out where the priorities are and facilitate ease with the technology that we make available, as opposed to sort of facilitating everything, shotgun effect, and not really successfully facilitating anything as a result. So this is an interesting case. Um, uh, this story is about a ball bearing manufacturing company uh, where they found solutions could become uh, much more effective by consolidating and reducing their overall architecture and bringing it in under one space. It's also a story for me about a leading prosthetics provider in the US. Um, they train their clinicians, their healthcare professionals and patients on complex products at scale across multiple clinics. Because of that, by consolidating effectively, they were able to overcome some pretty serious challenges. They had training at scale for over 600,000 prosthetic parts for clinicians and HCPs. Personalizing content across personas and diverse prosthetic parts, all a part of that operation, and then seamless purchase and certification experiences for patients and clinicians. The solution that Adobe brought them was to help them in training clinicians across 900 clinic locations by using personalized learning features to deliver tailored certification programs. And that meant bringing them a headless version of learning management architecture so that it all could come together under one home so that everyone always felt that all of the resources and assets they were working with was coming from that one united front, that one united space. And that can sometimes be a wonderful example of how you can take complexity and weave it into simplicity by the way that you present it to the end consumer, whether that's your sales personnel or its customers or whoever it happens to be inside of that chain. So by taking that direction and thinking of it as, sort of one platform, multiple experiences, infinite possibilities, more and more organizations are able to find a way to consolidate effectively. And that means fewer tools to train on and to learn and to master, more capability. It means simpler interfaces and richer interactions. It means single sign-on as opposed to all those kind of crazy multiple logins, but multiple pathways to growth because it's personalized enough that it recognizes the differences between individuals and the different kinds of experiences that they need to have supported in order to meet their overall goals. One of the ways that I like to look at that is through something called digital enablement rooms. This is a new kind of metaphor. Instead of libraries or portals, think rooms. So you can think, for example, the war room, which is competitive intelligence, battle cards, real-time market intelligence. The craft room, skill building, practice scenarios, peer learning, those can become a part of a conceptual craft space. The wisdom room, things like customer stories, case studies, lessons learned, those can be part of a growth, knowledge, and wisdom kind of space. And then finally, the laboratory, those can be new tools, experiments, innovation, sandbox. Each room has its purpose, but they're all together in the same house. So we can present for our teams this sort of comprehensive architecture, break it into consumable pieces, and then encourage them to understand why each of those pieces may play a critical role. So take that back and think now about those cases where individuals were being overwhelmed by their tech stack or where individuals were feeling like they did not have comprehensive awareness or understanding of the many different kinds of solutions that were available to them. By doing this sort of organizational structure, relating it to the concept of architecture, to a house, it can help your team break it down and make more sense of how these tools are going to be effective. We don't have 20 tools. We have a war room, we have a craft room, we have a wisdom room, we have a laboratory. That's a simpler way to understand what I'm going to do. And I understand immediately as a salesperson how I'm going to make use of those, right? If I need competitive intelligence, I need to understand what's going on. I'm about to go out and face a difficult conversation. I know there are competitors that have been in the mix. I'm going to go to the war room, right? And I know what I'm looking for there. I'm looking for battle cards. I'm looking for competitive intelligence and so on. If, on the other hand, I'm trying to figure out how can I set up for this customer clear vision of where they might be going? How can I imagine together with them what kind of solution we might produce together? Well, I'm going to go to the craft room. And so it's the same with the wisdom room, where I'm going to go for background and deep learning and understanding. The laboratory, where I'm going to go differently for new tools, for experiments, for innovations, sandboxing, things like that. And so we can bring order to the kind of madness of too much by simply orchestrating it and bringing it all under one roof. Let's do another practical takeaway. So, practical takeaway number 3: map your current sales enablement tools to outcomes, not features. If you can draw a direct line from tool to revenue impact, it's probably organizational clutter if you can't do that. If you can't connect the dots between the tool and how it impacts revenue, then maybe that tool doesn't really belong in your pipeline. I love this because it's a great way to see if you've got tools that are not actually contributing to your bottom line. You can determine whether that tool is kind of a flight of fancy. Is that tool outside of something that's really making a solid difference in your organization? And that can help you to reduce that stack as well by identifying those tools that fall outside of that line. All right, last poll. Sorry, Liz. I know that you love the polls the best.
Exactly.
All right. For this last one, what's your happily ever after vision for sales enablement? Is it the Lion King ending? Our sales team roars with confidence and every rep feels like royalty. Is it the Toy Story ending? We've got a friend and every tool looks in every tool, everything works together perfectly. Is it the Beauty and the Beast ending? We transformed our beastly complex systems into something beautiful and beloved. Is it the Frozen ending? We let go of what wasn't working and built something magical from scratch? Or the Moana ending? We've found our way across the vast ocean of data to discover what truly matters. Finally, it could be the Incredibles ending. Every member of our sales family discovered their superpowers, and now we're incredible. What do you think? Which one of those most applies to you?
I'll give everybody again about 5 more seconds, and we do have another one choice not selected, which is really interesting.
Wow. I like the Moana ending. Are you going to tell me that's the one nobody likes?
No, but a sad one. No Toy
The
Story.
Toy Story ending. We've got a friend in every tool. Everything works together perfectly. That is indeed a sad story, especially for folks who like to see these tools all work together. Wow, yeah. But no, the Incredibles ending. Every member of our sales family discovered their superpower, and now we're incredible. I think that's an awesome answer. I love that answer. I think that's definitely an aspiration to push for. So awesome. And thanks all for participating in the polls. It makes it so much more fun when we get to kind of explore those things. And plus, we get to feed Liz's Disney love, which is also great. So. Um, 68% of business professionals predict AI will be built into most software by 2025. I think that is unquestionably the case. I think we're seeing AI being built into most software as early as last year. Um, but here's what they're not saying. AI isn't making sales less human. It's making the human parts more important. Let me say that again. AI isn't making sales less human. It's making the human parts more important, right? Because ultimately that AI is not going to close that deal, right? Not if there's any seriousness behind the deal whatsoever. Ultimately, it's humans that draw those relationships and make them super valid. And so those skills, these relationship skills, become the most absolutely critical skills for us to make sure that we're maintaining, make sure that we're pushing forward and that we're valuing and recognizing among our sales teams. Organizations with aligned sales and marketing are 67% better at closing deals. Um, but alignment isn't a technology problem, it's a relationship problem. You cannot software your way to trust. You relationship your way to trust, right? So again, join my rebellion and believe that your sales personnel's real value, their most important value, is coming to us from this land of their nature, their ability to form relationships with people out in the world and bring those relationships into something that moves your organization forward. Three more pillars, three uncomfortable truths to consider around these pillars. The personalization paradox. 73% of customers expect better personalization, but nearly 60% don't trust companies with their data. So I'm not exactly sure how they're expecting to get that expected personalization when most of them don't trust their data to, to the companies that they have relationships with. The solution is to stop trying to know everything about your customers and start trying to genuinely be curious about what they're trying to accomplish, right? Because if my goal is to learn everything I can about the customer so I can dump it into my customer database where AI is going to perform magic on it and then tell me exactly what I should say to make them want to buy something, um, that's one kind of way to think of the world. But it really is an important distinction to say something like, okay, actually, I just want to get to know my customer. And if there are some qualities or characteristics that make sense to track so that I can serve that customer's needs better the next time they walk into my space of business or the next time they engage with my company, more power to it. Track that, if it makes sense and if you've been given permission, that makes sense. But the mindless, zealous mission to track the world doesn't make sense. The targeted, logical mission to learn from your customers what they're actually all about, well, that has way more power than the information that you gain in that interaction. The power that it has is to begin a deeper conversation and learning. You'll learn from the customer. You'll take that away. You'll bring it back to your organization. You'll share stories. You'll help people understand customer narratives. You'll help build and grow your products and solutions better than they've ever been. And that customer will appreciate it. They'll know the difference. They'll sense it from the gate and they'll appreciate that you're asking them for information in order to better serve their needs, not in order to better serve your own agenda. The second pillar here, the efficiency trap. AI saves salespeople 2 hours a day. Absolutely, you bet. But win rates have only improved marginally. What's that about? Is that because people who have had that 2 hours saved are just using it to like play pinball? Are they just kicking back and taking naps in their office? Are they surfing the web more or doom scrolling more hours a day? I think those assumptions are a little wacky because if you think about your own life, right, rather than an abstract figure, we all like to paint pictures of abstract caricatures. Rather than an abstract caricature, think about your own life. I bet AI has saved you some time. Maybe a little, maybe a lot, maybe a crazy amount. But I don't think that that suddenly made you no longer motivated. I don't think it suddenly made you not interested in doing your work. I think it probably made you interested in doing your work better. I think it probably made you have a little competitive edge and think I can do this and outperform X down the hall for a while and get excited about it, right? I think that as humans, we all embrace these kinds of things and we begin to explore them and understand them and we excel at them and we sometimes stumble over them and we have a million different things. The insight here is that time saved is not necessarily equal to value created. Your reps don't need more time necessarily, they need more meaningful time. right? So if that means that they get freed for an hour a day or even 2 hours a day, and they're able to leverage that time in a meaningful way that makes sense for them, that could be calling people and building those relationships. That could be going to meet with customers in locations more often. That could mean checking in on the progress of customers, learning about how they're doing even without going somewhere, learning by observing what articles have been written by, for, and about your customers, observing what's happening in the market and understanding why one industry is going in one direction and another's going in another direction. All of those things are creating meaning out of that time. And I just believe it firmly. Most people will accept the trust you're giving them and they will benefit you as a result. And that's where your benefit will come. This notion that you're going to cut 2 hours a day from 20 people and therefore have the equivalent of an additional 40 hours a day, that that's probably just goofy. It's probably just crazy talk. And I think that in time that will bear out pretty true that those organizations who say, you know what, yeah, we do have some freed up time, we do have some freed up resources. Let's figure out how we can encourage our people to leverage that time in ways that are effective and meaningful. Let's see how we can encourage them to think about what they might like to do with that time that could improve their overall performance, that could improve their experience, that could improve their customer relationships, and so on. And then the third pillar there is the training treadmill. The training treadmill, 26% of sales reps consider their training to be ineffective overall. But as is the case in each of these pillars, is that necessarily the case? Is their training actually ineffective? No, I don't think that's the case at all. I think that their perception is that their training has been ineffective. And in the case of the training treadmill, it's about people responding to this sort of never-ending cycle that they don't feel they can get off, right? They're not necessarily saying, I'm unwilling to train. What they're saying is, I'm feeling overwhelmed. Can you provide me solutions and offers which are more targeted to the kinds of time that I feel that I have on hand, the kinds of experiences that I feel prepared to invest in? So, what if sales enablement was actually enjoyable? What if we did embrace a kind of joy manifesto? What if we stopped treating sales enablement like medicine, something people need but don't want, and started designing it more like art? Would it kill us? What do you think? I think it probably would not. And I think it probably wouldn't kill business. And I think it probably wouldn't kill our progress as we move forward and improve our sales enablement picture overall. I think we can break this down into four principles. I call these the four principles of joyful enablement. Curiosity over compliance. Measure engagement, not completion. Measure the way that they're engaged with their learning experiences, not the fact that they finished something or didn't finish something or had X amount of time invested in that. Stories over statistics. Lead with narrative, support with numbers. Tell stories, support it with numbers, support it with evidence. That's going to encourage your sales personnel to do the same thing. And many of you who come to my seminars and things like this will often say to me, I like your webinars because you always tell us stories, give us examples, and draw out pictures and illustrations. Well, that's just human nature. We all want to relate to each other, and stories are one path, a really powerful one, by which we accomplish that. So giving your folks a chance to practice it and experience it is only going to benefit you and everybody in the long run. The third pillar, experimentation over perfection. Fail fast, learn faster. It's better to experiment than to have not tried experimenting. If you never try experimenting, if you encourage them to only follow specific procedures and methods every time, to never deviate, then you're never going to find really hardcore improvement, right? Because if you experiment, you will find new paths, and those new paths will be paths to success. Then finally, that fourth pillar, community over content. People learn from people, not platforms. They learn from other people, not from platforms. The bottom line then, companies with comprehensive sales enablement programs don't just exceed revenue targets, they create environments where people actually want to learn. You see, Liz's appearance there tells me that I am, over time, it's like a big gong saying, Alan, you are done. Please, please hush up. And I will say to you, though, that I just have this a parting message for you. The choice is ultimately yours. It's what happens when you design learning experiences that honor beautiful complexity of people in your business. Your sales team don't need to be empowered. They need to be unleashed. Thanks, Liz, and I'm sorry I went so long.
No, no, this was beautiful. Honestly, I feel like although the audience was a little quiet, I feel like the number kept increasing. So like the engagement, I was completely captured in the story the whole time. And so I
Oh, thank
imagine
you.
everyone else was as well. So I appreciate you so much.
Well,
And
thanks for everybody coming.
yes. And so for that, thank you so much, Alan. We are going to be taking that 15-minute break because up next we do have Brian and Rachel from Force Management for their session, How to Align Training with Market Shifts and Company Objectives. So again, in a moment, I will end this session. You can join our next session by returning to the event lobby and going to the session tab. I hope you all stick around for our next session, which will begin at the top of the hour. Bye, everybody.
Thanks, everybody.